All right, y'all. Thank y'all for coming out. My name is Jonathan Chaves. I'm a Marine Corps veteran and a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation and a member of Veterans for Peace. Thank you to everyone for coming out today in righteous indignation against the Trump regime's immoral, corrupt, and dangerous actions over these past 2 weeks. We have seen the Trump regime wage a full-on war at home against our undocumented communities with his brutal and immoral ICE raids terrorizing our people. And when the people of LA rose up in justified anger against these ICE raids, the Trump regime sent the National Guard and the Marine Corps to crush these mass movements for justice. And now they are supporting Israel's unprovoked attack against Iran, which has now started a war between these two countries, for which the U.S. seems poised to join on the side of Israel. That's right, boo! Shame! World War III has never been closer. In fact, it may have just begun. But this is why we are out here to demand an end to this madness. And so let me just start off with some chants real quick before I introduce our first speaker. So I'm gonna say the lines, and then you can repeat it back to me the second time. Service members, don't turn on your own. Stand down or stand alone. Service members, don't turn on your own. Stand down or stand alone. Service members, don't turn on your own. Stand down or stand alone. There's another one. No troops, no war. We won't take it anymore. No troops, no war. We won't take it anymore. No troops, no war. We won't take it anymore. No troops, no war. We won't take it anymore. Woo! Let's go. So now I would like to invite to the stage our first speaker of the day, Tyler Romero, a community organizer and member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Please welcome Tyler to the stage.
Thank you, Jonathan, for that introduction, and thank you everyone here today for coming out. My name is Tyler Romero, and I am a U.S. Navy veteran. My apologies. I'm here today joined by fellow anti-war veterans and organizers to demand that our streets not be turned into war zones by Trump and his administration. By marching into our communities and kidnapping our siblings, our mothers, our families, what did you think was going to happen? Are we supposed to just be passive victims of your brutality? No! Exactly. Hell no. Deploying troops to occupy our streets and police our communities is not only unlawful, it is a declaration of war on the working class, and it will be met by the steadfast resistance of the people. Yeah! We know why the Trump administration sent Marines and National Guardsmen to LA. We know why cowardly governors across the country are following suit. And it's not because of violent protesters. It's because they want to intimidate us out of exercising our First Amendment rights. It's because they want to push a racist narrative that immigrants are dangerous criminals, when we know the real violent criminals are the police kidnapping our community members and brutalizing anyone who resists. Yeah. The real violent criminals are Trump and his administration and the Democrats, all bought and paid for by the billionaires, waging war on their own people, while at the same time plotting with Israel to launch a catastrophic war on Iran, a war that could spiral into World War III.
Shame!
Shame! They have endless money for wars and tax cuts for their wealthy donors, but continue their preparation to slash the vital programs working class families depend on to survive. We know who the real existential threat is, and they're afraid because they know that when the working class unites, when we organize, and when we see through their pathetic attempts to scapegoat our community members, we are unstoppable. Yeah! And for those that are serving in the military, Whether it's the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Air Force, or the Space Force, I have a few questions for you. Why did you join the military? Was it because you needed the money? Was it for the promise of healthcare and an education? Well, listen to me when I say this. You should not have to put your life on the line for these things. And if serving the American people and protecting their rights was your reason for joining, then start by rejecting your orders to be deployed to our streets. Just following these orders won't make you a hero or add another ribbon to your rack. It will make you a criminal. We stand on lands that are rich in resistance and anti-war organizing, from the movement for a democratic military who demanded the withdrawal from the Vietnam War, to the Green Machine coffee house where sailors and Marines organized for peace. This is not new to us. Just because you're a service member does not mean you are a voiceless, mindless machine. Refuse unlawful orders, put down your arms, stand up beside the thousands of veterans and anti-war organizers waiting for you to join the real fight. Not against the poor people of the world who are fighting to survive, but against the rich that manufacture scarcity and suffering around the globe. I want to end by saying this. Whether it's in Palestine, in Iran, in the Congo, in Sudan, or even at home, let these warmongers never forget. My apologies. Let these warmongers learn what the people never forget. And that is that no occupying force will ever outlast a people firmly planted in their principles and that remain deeply rooted in resistance. When our freedom is under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When our freedom is under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When troops take the streets and won't give them back, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Tyler, for that amazing speech. And I now want to welcome our next speaker to the podium, electioneer, whatever you want to call it. Is a member of Anakbayan San Diego. So can I get the speaker from Anakbayan to come on to the stage? Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Siren, and I'm a member of Anakbayan San Diego. We are an organization of Filipino youth fighting for genuine democracy and sovereignty in the Philippines and the welfare and the rights of our people here in the U.S. and around the world. And while we know that these deportations and these detainments and the billion-dollar migrant detention industry has existed long before Trump, we can see now that these attacks are rapidly intensifying across the country. And just over this past week, ICE has been sweeping our communities. And we know that 2 Filipinos in Paradise Hills have been detained. Are we going to stand for that? No! Anakbayan San Diego, along with Malaya San Diego and the Migrante San Diego has been building our Tango Migrante Network, or also called our Defend Migrants Network. And over the past few months, we have been supporting Ate Nerissa. She's a Filipino caregiver and with 3 children here in San Diego, and we've been helping with her situation with her husband, Kuya Zanar, who has been detained by ICE for 3 years before being deported just last month. Yay! We've been working with Ate Nerissa to confront the Philippines consulate to provide aid that they promise to give towards their Filipinos abroad. And for these situations, and to pressure the U.S. consulate to even just acknowledge what's been happening and to address the inhumane conditions that our kababayan are facing here in the U.S. And even though Kuya Zanar has been deported, Ate Nerissa is still fighting for Kuya Jimmy, who's one of Kuya Zanar's bunkmates while he was in detention. Kuya Jimmy is still there, and he has a Filipino mother, and his father is actually a white American who served for the U.S. and is a veteran. And yet the Philippines consulate, and yet the U.S. government still keeps him there. Shame!
Shame!
What are your obligations?
Instead of working with us, the U.S. consulate staff are rude and they lied to us. They disrespect Ate Narissa and Kuya Jimmy, who confront them and tell them about their situation, about the many Filipinos who have been detained. And yet the Philippines consulate, they tell to the world, there are no Filipinos being detained. There are no Filipinos protesting here on the streets. But we know that that's a lie. And this abuse and neglect that our people face here and back home are why Filipinos need to get organized and need to stay on the streets. Because the consulate here, they neglect our needs here, but they also provide the Philippines government creates the conditions that force them to leave their homes and to come here. The Philippines has a labor export policy where they encourage thousands of Filipinos to leave the Philippines every day because they cannot support their family there. Yet they come here and they face the threats and the violence from deportation, from ICE, from discrimination here in the U.S. Shame. But we know that the consulate is not here supporting, that the U.S. government is not supporting our Filipinos, but it's really the community that are standing up and creating the support and the aid and the care that they actually deserve here. That is why we encourage Filipinos here to go out on the streets to protest, to show up for the rallies, to show up for their kababayan and the families who are being affected by this today. We support people to go out this week to attend the rallies and to also join us, Anakbayan and other Filipino orgs who are actually confronting the Philippines consulate because they're visiting here on Sunday in San Diego to go about their regular business, to work with Filipinos to get dual citizenship without even addressing the actual cries and the needs that Filipinos have been telling them to help support their families who have been affected by this. And so we encourage people to go out and to join the Tango Migrante Network, because the people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that speech. And our next speaker will be a member of CODEPINK and Jewish Voices for Peace, Julie Gustopherson-Lyra.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Julianne H. Gustopherson-Lyra, and I'm an activist with CODEPINK San Diego, and also Jewish Voice for Peace. I'm also an immigrant. We stand here before you to support the hundreds of fellow friends and neighbors now being hunted down like animals by the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, and by the threats of the National Guard and military now sent by the greatest purveyor of lawlessness in this country, Donald J. Trump. The hunted are identified only by their skin color, it seems, brown or black, even though they may not be Mexican or even Latin American. We very recently, Senator Padilla was violently thrown to the ground for simply trying to ask a question of White House Kristi Noem. This kind of incident will keep happening if we do not keep pressuring our leaders to speak up and defend us instead of just a half minute of their long careers of voting for reckless, racist violence towards us and abuse like Padilla himself has now experienced. We see ICE agents in full military gear grabbing parents taking their kids to school, storming restaurants, small factories or businesses, apprehending dozens of people, trying to find anyone without papers. We see ICE agents running down California farm fields, chasing after workers they presume are undocumented. Shame! Because of this, people across the nation are up in arms. So what does Mr. Trump do? He sends the National Guard and the Marines to threaten us and to back up ISIS' dirty work. He's trampling on people's rights of freedom of expression, free speech, and to gather peaceably. Everyone in this country is protected by the U.S. Constitution to have due process under the law, not to be dragged away like a common criminal.
That's right. Yeah.
But what do 75 of our illustrious and beloved Democrats do? They join Trump by backing a resolution, quote, condemning anti-Semitism and expressing gratitude to ICE for doing such a good job. Okay, so is this what it's really all about? Is it AIPAC and ADL? Under this smokescreen, AIPAC and ADL have ordered you to harass, intimidate, arrest pro-Palestinian activists and students who are demanding Israel stop the genocide in Gaza. You're creating havoc and chaos in this country so that people will not notice they're starving and murdering Palestinians. And that they're attacking Lebanon and Syria. And that they have pushed us from one war to another. Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, and now their prize, Iran. All on our dime. We're paying for this, people. To ICE agents and police and Marines, especially to those whose parents or grandparents are Latinos, whose only crime was to come to this country just to work, just to pay for your food, for you to go to school. Is this what your parents sent you to school for? To turn around and now attack your own people for this?
Shame! Shame!
To those who say we have too many immigrants coming to this country, I have a solution. It's quite simple. Stop making wars all around the world. Stop allowing the Zionist members of government to push you into more wars. Stop propping up despots and dictators in other countries like you did in the 1970s and 1980s in Central America.
End imperialism.
Stop supporting genocidal regimes around the world like in Egypt and Israel. Please join us before it's too late. CODEPINK San Diego and allies have taken many focused actions in recent months towards peace, justice, and demilitarization. We have challenged power holders like Padilla, Schiff, Todd Gloria, and others, countless weapon corporations, for peaceful and strategic actions. Each of us has the power to speak up and to dismantle the systems of violence that are now attacking our streets and killing people around the world. Come join us, please. We vigil every Saturday between 10 and 12 at the corner of Sunset Cliffs and Point Loma Boulevard in San Diego, together with Veterans for Peace, Jewish Voice for Peace, and all our other allies. Thank you for your attention. Free Mahmoud al-Khalil and stop the genocide in Gaza.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Julie. That was a great speech. And I just want us to maybe do one or two extra chants right now, just to get us our like blood pumping again and get some energy, you know. So yeah, one moment.
Get our anger out. Yes.
That's right. Get our anger out. That's right. So just, I'll say it first, and then you can repeat it after me. When your orders are to occupy dissidents is justified. When your orders are occupied, dissidents is justified. When your orders are to occupy, dissidents is justified. Woo! When Trump says to attack our own, it's time for him to be dethroned. When Trump says to attack our own, it's time for him to be dethroned. When Trump says to attack our own, it's time for him to be dethroned. Woo! That's right. So the next person I would like to welcome onto the stage here is Patrick, a local San Diego veteran, who's going to talk about his experience and about what's happening in LA right now. So thank you.
Hello. My name's Patrick. I'm a combat veteran. I served in Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm not really here to speak for any particular group. I'm here to speak for myself and bring a perspective and perhaps ask a question at the end. In the last few weeks, the last few months, I've seen things that are happening on the news on our own soil that I only ever seen when I was deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. These are principles that are completely against everything that I believe in. I never thought once in my life I would be seeing active duty troops deployed on the streets of Los Angeles completely illegally. I, just a few months ago, was a stay-at-home dad that was upset and didn't know what to do. Here I am today. I feel like I'm a part of a community. I'm trying to organize. I'm trying to become an activist. I'm trying to help those that are vulnerable and that are in need. So I guess my question would be, I would like all of you to step out of these echo chambers you're in, step outside your front doors, look around to see who's needed. I've seen people being abducted at the court down at 880 Front Street after their immigration hearings. Spirited away. Sometimes they're not even being identified. We've had stormtroopers essentially descend on South Park to intimidate a neighborhood, to treat us like we're an enemy of some sort, an enemy of the state, I suppose. So, but my question is, I would like you to think about the things that you've been told for your entire life. Get outside, meet who's in your community, find who's vulnerable, and help them. There are more people than you realize that are out there, and they need us right now. Yeah. So let's help them. Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry about that delay. Thank you so much for that speech, Patrick. And I would like to now introduce a member of VFP, the chairperson for the local here in San Diego. Their name is Ian, and please welcome him to the stage. Thank you so much.
Greetings. My name is Ian Mooney. I am a veteran of the U.S. Army and president of the San Diego chapter of Veterans for Peace. But let me tell you all about another member of our chapter, a man named Gary Butterfield. When the draft came for Gary, and he was being ordered to take up arms for the imperial occupation of Vietnam, he did something extraordinary. He refused. With incredible courage and moral dignity, Gary chose imprisonment rather than complicity with the outright slaughter of innocent people. He trusted his own sense of right and wrong over the false narratives of patriotism and service, which the armed forces have been peddling now for centuries. He took refuge in the plain fact that rifles, tanks, and Agent Orange have no place on the pathway to peace. Yeah. I lacked such courage when I was young. I volunteered to join the Army, having spent my entire life watching one war after another, saturated in military propaganda, insisting that the armed forces were the noble choice for persons of real valor, rather than building community with my friends and neighbors, or pursuing an education, or anything that might amount to public good. I spent the next 4 years of my life letting murderers, bigots, and villains humiliate me through ranked discipline, corporal punishment, and tedious uniform regulations. On top of that, I spent 14 months in Afghanistan protecting pedophile warlords while Hamid Karzai established a flimsy kleptocracy through the direct intervention of U.S. military power. Yeah, it's bad. Also, while I was there, the CIA took control of Afghanistan's opium production, the Department of Defense contracted with the Taliban to use slave labor for mining of precious minerals, and the U.S. military slaughtered innocent civilians. After 20 years of imperial occupation, over 300,000 Afghans lost their lives. That is the legacy of my participation, of my refusal to lay down arms, of my inability to muster as much courage as my friend Gary Butterfield. Over 500,000 people were killed in the U.S. occupation of Iraq. In Vietnam, over 1 million civilians were killed. And in Korea, more than 1.5 million people lost their lives, mainly due to the relentless bombing campaign which the U.S. military rained down upon those lands. All of these countries have been permanently marred by the destruction which the U.S. militarized state brought upon them. Their soil is poisoned by toxins and metals. In many places, mines and unexploded ordnance remain. Families are still recovering from death and conflagration that tore them apart and drove them from their homes, often never to return. That is the legacy of the U.S. Armed Forces. On the shoulder of every service member who passed in front of President Trump's dais on Saturday, there is a U.S. flag. These millions of deaths, that unmeasurable devastation, that's what this flag represents. Is that what we want patrolling through our streets, pointing guns in our faces and threatening to detain us? No! And it's worth noting, this is not an idle threat. The Marines have begun detaining people in L.A. Yeah. If you are a service member, is this how you envisioned your enlistment playing out? Turning on your own people? Acting as the Gestapo power for an executive that holds civil law in contempt and uses the office of president to run crypto rug pulls and peddle chintzy cell phones? Shame! Right now, masked agents conduct clandestine raids, kidnapping our fellow residents without warrant or warning, pelting us with gas and other munitions in our own streets. This is happening at South Park. This is happening in El Cajon. We must raise our voice and stand together against this assault on our civil freedom. The Veterans for Peace stand completely opposed to both the militarization of police and the use of military power as domestic or foreign policy. The recent deployment of Marines to our neighbor city is by no means an aberration. The National Guard has been a tool for domestic oppression my whole life. I first saw them deployed against U.S. civilians on television in the wake of Rodney King's brutal murder, and I last saw them face-to-face during the protests following Anthony Lamar Smith's murder in St. Louis. Rest in power to them both. And besides the National Guard, we have seen police budgets across the country swell like an aggressive cancer as officers turn themselves into an occupying force armed with high-powered rifles, body armor, and assault vehicles. Shame! Right now, our police, our military is at war with us, and we must not stand by and let it happen. My fellow San Diegans, join us. Here is a coalition of seasoned organizers who want to see peace and prosperity rather than conflict and strife. Organize with us and stand against the rising tide of fascism. To any service members that may be present or who may somehow hear my words, do not let yourself be dominated. Stand up for what you think is right. In this city, there is a rich history of soldiers and sailors exercising their democratic rights. In 1971, sailors in this city organized a massive grassroots campaign to stop the deployment of the aircraft carrier Constellation to Vietnam. That's right, yeah, let's hear it. Those guys are heroes. When it did set sail for those lands, 9 sailors refused to accompany it and were court-martialed. Between 1969 and 1971, at least 50,000 soldiers abandoned their posts and refused to serve. So great was direct GI resistance to the Vietnam War that it forced the military to change tactics entirely and eventually withdraw. The direct efforts of individual service members coming together to form a moral and democratic union brought the war effort to a close. That is the power you have, but the hands that hold the rifle cannot also wave the white flag. I cannot encourage you to break the law, but I can remind you that it is your right to protest your service commitment as a conscientious objector. And I promise you that should you do so, we, the Veterans for Peace, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, CODEPINK, Anakbayan, Activist San Diego, and the many others who stand with us here, we will help you. We will support you, and we will welcome you home like true heroes when you exit the service. I will live the rest of my life holding on to the guilt and the shame from my participation in the U.S. imperial destruction and exploitation of Afghanistan. But you, service members, stand at the crossroads. Far be it from me to interpret the events right before all our eyes, but I believe that this is the most important struggle of our lives. We stand at the precipice of war abroad as Israel recklessly antagonizes the people of Iran, threatening nuclear conflict, and we face war at home as the military marches through our streets on the orders of our narcissist, swindler president. Do not turn on us. Do not take arms against us. Comrades, friends who remain under the bondage of military service, lay down your arms and join us on the side of peace. Thank you. All power to the people.
Thank you, Ian, for that amazing speech. And thank you to all the organizations and all the press who has come out here today. We really appreciate everybody who has joined us for this press conference and who is here in opposition to U.S. imperialism and to the use of military force on our civilians inside this country. And so this is only the beginning. We will continue to remain in the streets in continued defiance of the Trump regime, and we would like to invite everyone here to our upcoming rallies and marches that are happening tomorrow and on Friday. So tomorrow, with the PSL, with the Palestinian Youth Movement and Jewish Voices for Peace, we'll be having a protest at 5 p.m. at Waterfront Park. And we will be protesting the aggressive, unprovoked, and unjustified Israeli attack on Iran. That's right. No war. This unprovoked and unjustified attack on a sovereign nation is now bringing us closer to World War III and to nuclear war. We are at the brink of that catastrophe, and we need to stand up and show this government, the United States, and the Trump regime that we don't support that the working class does not support that. That's right. And we have another action that's upcoming as well. A direct follow-up to this press conference. On next Friday, June 27th, at 6 p.m., starting at Memorial Park, we are going to march from that park, which will be on Valle Avenue and intersection of Valle Avenue and South 30th Street. We're going to march from that park in that area to the front of the 32nd Street Naval Base in downtown San Diego. And we're going to demonstrate that the working class in this country does not want its military to be suppressing our movements for justice in this country. That if you're a service member, the people do not support that, and you should put down your weapons and join the side of the people if this Trump regime asks you to join them in suppressing the people. And one final point. If you are a newer person to these kinds of actions, or a member of the community who comes out often to these kinds of rallies and to the movement in general, please get involved with an organization. Talk with someone in a red shirt with PSL. There's a bunch of people in red shirts right here, all around here, to ask how to get involved with PSL. But also, please get involved with all the various organizations who are part of this rally, who are part of this movement and this press conference. Veterans for Peace, Anakbayan San Diego, CODEPINK San Diego. That's right. Please, and Jewish Voices for Peace. I'm so sorry, excuse me. And Jewish Voices for Peace. Yeah. We have a lot of allies. It doesn't matter who you join. But if you're not organized right now, then you need to get organized. You need to join the movement, and you need to join an organization so that we can actually form a truly organized fight against the Trump regime and against fascism. Yeah! So I'm gonna end it with a couple of cheers, or a couple chants. Soldiers, when led astray, your right is to disobey. Soldiers, when led astray, your right is to disobey. Soldiers, when led astray, your right is to disobey. Soldiers, when led astray, your right is to disobey. Woo! Let me wait for that. Okay, one last chant. Money for jobs and education, not for war and deportation. Money for jobs and education, not for war and deportation. Money for jobs and education, not for war and deportation. Woo! Thank you all so much. That's the end of the press conference. Appreciate y'all, and please come out to those actions in the next couple of 2 weeks. And also, forgot one last thing. I want to acknowledge that we are on Kumeyaay land, and want to acknowledge that none of us here are innocent of that genocide that happened to the indigenous peoples of North America and South America. So I just wanted to acknowledge that real quick before we end. Thank you so much. Thank y'all so much for coming out. We'll see y'all on the streets.